Chair recognizes Mr. Higgins from Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a lot to cover and not a lot of time to do it in. I'd like to enter for the record, please, a letter from the Associated Builders and Contractors of America regarding merit-based hiring, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection to ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My brothers and sisters across the aisle, on both sides of the aisle, we have a historical trend in our nation. We have an opportunity to address legitimately from both liberal and conservative perspectives. I think it should be embraced because, generally speaking, we started losing our country about 40 years ago regarding the accelerated accumulation of debt. And this coincides, of course, with the massive growth of the federal government. And this coincides, of course, with the ongoing increasing infringement upon individual liberties, rights, and freedoms, and movement away from the sovereignty of our states regarding their ability to handle their business, reflective of the 10th Amendment, might I add, which reserves to the states all authorities not specifically enumerated to the federal government or prohibited to the states by Congress or the Constitution. So, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, President Clinton, when you have a unified government, when you have either party in majority control in the House, the Senate, and the White House, that's opportunity to really address the trajectory that we're on in our country. President Clinton wasn't going to reduce the size and scope of the federal government. President Bush wasn't going to reduce the size and scope of the federal government. President Obama wasn't going to do that. You have a unique moment in history right now. We have an obligation to address the trajectory that has been established over the last 4 decades. This is a trajectory towards doom for our country. It's unsustainable. So we have an executive branch that's pumping the brakes. And this is something that this town is very uncomfortable with, and quite frankly, it's new territory. It's a new exercise for our country in modern history. So there's going to be maybe some wild steering, shall we say, when you're applying the brakes for the first time in modern history. But I encourage my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to grasp what's going on here. We're trying to save our republic from itself. Governor Reynolds, I would like to ask you about your role, your beautiful work, reducing your own executive branch from 37 cabinet-level departments to 16. It's exactly the kind of thing we're trying to do. You saved your state a lot of money. You changed your trajectory of spending. You reestablished financial stability and economic prosperity because of your conservative approach. It's what we're trying to do. And the President Trump and Mr. Musk is as an ambassador of common sense for President Trump to look hard at the practices of our executive branches and to reduce their size and scope. Governor Reynolds, I have a formula essentially that transitions federal service back to the sovereign states. We can save a lot of money doing this. What are your thoughts on shifting federal responsibilities away from the massive federal government to the sovereign states? Generally speaking, agencies like EPA, FEMA, Bureau of Prisons, how would that work in your state, ma'am?
Well, we would welcome that, again, and especially with the alignment, I think we're positioned very well to do that. So I appreciate what I see happening with DOGE. As I indicated in my remarks, I'm standing up Iowa DOGE, so we can continue to bring the private sector in to examine the way that we're doing business. Government has to operate more like a business. It had been 40 years since we even looked at the structure of government in Iowa. It was ripe for reform. You know, they never eliminate a program. They never do away with one. Once it started, it stays. If it's not working, they think more money is the answer to it, so we keep it. If it doesn't work, there's really no metrics ever tied to anything, but the ongoing thought is if we put a little bit more money into it, eventually it's going to work. So I believe that states are well suited to implement block grants with accountability, with transparency, with metrics, with KPIs, so that we can report back to the federal government the results that we're seeing from the opportunity to take those streamlined dollars and be innovative and be effective, whether it's the Department of Education, FEMA. I had 3 presidential disaster declarations in 2 months
Yes,
this
ma'am.
last spring.
Thank you.
And
My time has expired, Governor. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Mr. Chairman, I yield.